Hi everyone, today I will be doing a video about the 10 literary characters that I would invite to my dinner party. I'd like to thank Mel from the channel A Book Fiend named Mel. I will link her channel down below because she tagged me in that on Twitter and I thought that sounded like fun. You see some little ears popping in, that's our cat called Treacle. She hasn't decided if she wants to make her appearance on the camera yet or not, but she may well do jump on me in the middle. So, right, so I'll start. My first literary character would be Imoni Santiago from With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. That was one of my favourites that I've read over the last couple of months. I would need to invite her to my dinner. One, because she's got a cute little baby and we could sit all day comparing notes about our children. But I cannot cook and I think she'd be able to give me a lot of advice. Well, I can cook if I follow a recipe to the letter. But when it comes to being like Imoni is in that book, she's very off the cuff. She just feels it and she just knows what she's doing. At the rate I would go, we'd probably end up eating tin soup, beans on toast, and a scoop of ice cream at the end. I'd want it to be a bit fancier than that for a dinner party, so hopefully she could arrive early and help me. And in the meantime, we can talk about our little ones. So that would be the first one. I must add that this table is mostly women and very strong interest in women. And maybe at a later date I'll do a table of strong interest in men, but I just thought of the first characters I could think of and these are the ones that came up. So the next two people along the same vein would be Jane Eyre and Elizabeth Bennet. So Jane Eyre, wow, had a really interesting life. I believe I think she started off in an orphanage, is that right? And then she became a governess. And yeah, I would be interested to hear about her early life if she wanted to share it. She could talk to me about Mr. Rochester all day long. So yeah, again, like I said, she was a governess, so she's obviously fond of children, so I could tell her all about my Sophie. Elizabeth Bennet, I think they would get along quite well. And Elizabeth isn't afraid to speak her mind. She's very to the point. She doesn't really seem to care what people think. She tells them her opinion anyway, and I like that. So she would definitely be there. The next character would be Thursday Next from the Jasper Fforde series. I know Mel's already mentioned this. Maybe I'm one of the two people she said that are aware of this series. I love this series. He's done 8 books. 8 books, I think we're up to 8, 7 maybe. But it takes a while between each book, so when I find out there's a new one coming out, I have to start all the way back at the beginning. But she's basically a literary detective, and the first book she actually goes into is Jane Eyre, so she will already know Jane Eyre. And I like that at a dinner party. I think that eases people in if they've got some familiarity there. So yeah, Thursday Next would be an awesome one. I would really love to know about all the books that she's ventured into and all the characters that she's met. The next person that I thought Thursday Next would get along with is Constance Kopp. Now, I haven't heard many people talk about these books at all. I got these recommended to me. I subscribe to a website called mytbr.co. I saw it on a video by from the Books and Lala channel. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but it'll come to me. She'd subscribed to that website and got some recommendations of books she could try. I think in America you can actually have the books delivered to your house, but in the UK you can just have 3 recommendations given. So I wanted to try that out, and they recommended the Kopp Sisters series to me because I was interested in trying historical fiction, and so they suggested these books, and it's basically she becomes a detective. Yeah, so it's really good. I'm on the second one now, so I obviously enjoyed the recommendation, but she's a no-nonsense woman. in a world where women weren't really allowed to be detectives. Uh, but she's pushing on through. She's pushing on through them ceilings. But I thought she'd get along really well with Thursday Next because obviously Constance is a detective in our world, but set, I think it's like 1920s, 30s maybe. And Thursday Next is in the literary world, so they could compare. I think they'd get along really well. Excuse me. So then I thought, who else could I ask? And I thought of Lucy Pevensey from the Narnia series. I remember reading that as a child and loving Lucy, and I'm starting to reread them now. And the interesting thing about Lucy is in the books, she's sometimes a child, but when she's in Narnia, they age in Narnia and then they come back and they're children again. So I actually don't know what age she'd turn up as. So she'd have no problem with the grown-ups. But if she come back as a young person, then the person I would, well, there's two people I'd sit next to, because the other character I would welcome along is Ariete Clock from The Borrowers. One, because how interesting to have a very, very tiny person amongst all these big people. She would definitely have some stories to tell and some great ideas about upcycling, using other objects for other purposes, because they have to, don't they? They have to use thimbles for tables and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought she'd just be an interesting person. She might keep Lucy entertained. Children love The Borrowers. But on the other side of it, I was going to have Mary Poppins from the P.L. Travers series. Mary Poppins knows how to keep people in line, not just children, people in general. So the conversation would stay on track with Mary Poppins, I feel. But she could bring a magic bag and she could produce all kind of things out of it. Preferably a table that would fit 10 people for my dinner party. Well, 11 including me. So yeah, she could bring the furniture, so she could arrive first, and she could provide all the fancy cutlery, etc., for Ramoni to produce her delicious food on. Yeah, so I thought that would work really well. And then I thought I would invite Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter. She is one of my favourite characters from that, I feel. Again, no nonsense. She'd get along really well with Mary Poppins. I think I'd want to hear all of the stories from the Harry Potter world and some of the things that went on behind the scenes, because she's not in every scene of Harry Potter, every situation, so she could tell us some background stuff, some secrets about Dumbledore, or I don't know, some things we don't know. So Professor McGonagall, and so she's obviously from the magical world, and then I was trying to think of who else from a magical world I could invite, and I was thinking Aslan from the Narnia series. Lucy would know him, she'd be more comfortable, and also I thought it was interesting to invite an animal to the dinner party. One of mine and my little girl's favourite stories is The Tiger Who Came to Tea, so let's have a lion there. Yeah, so they're my 10. Imoni Santiago from With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Jane Eyre from Jane Eyre. Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. Thursday Next from the Jasper Falls Thursday Next series. Constant Cop from the Cop Sisters series by Amy Stewart. Lucy Pevensey from the Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. Mary Poppins from the Mary Poppins series of books by P.L. Travers. Ariete Clock from The Borrowers by Mary Norton. Professor McGonagall from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. And Aslan also from the Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. I did have a couple of other people in mind. Rebecca Bloomwood from the Shopaholic series I thought would be quite interesting. Just light-hearted and fun, and because there's some serious people on this list, maybe I could have done with that. I also thought maybe Anastasia Steele from, oh my goodness, why have I remembered that? The 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. she would have some interesting stories to tell. But she works in the publishing industry, and that really, I would love to work in the publishing industry and just read a million books. I dream of pulling that amazing book that nobody considered from the slush pile. She would, yeah, I would like to sit around a dinner table with her. Are they the only other two? Like I said, there's so many male characters, interesting male characters, you know, but some of the characters I would have thought of would have been Mr. Rochester or Mr. Rochester, Mr. Darcy. But I didn't want this to be a couple's dinner party, because I do find there's a different how people get along is differently then. If you have all couples, they might just talk to each other and not everybody else. So yeah, so I might do a male literary table eventually. But yeah, this was just what I come up with to begin with. So I would like to thank Mel for providing the content for this, or the idea for the content for this video. I found it really interesting, and I look forward to hear anybody else's list. About time that I got an appropriate background for BookTube. Yeah, there's a right mix on there. There is no rhyme or reason, which might surprise you because I work in a library, but I order books all day, so let's have a bit of randomness. Randomness, is that in a word? The stickers. My child loves to stick stickers around the house. Every wall is covered in random stickers, so she started here. But yeah, my current TBR is next to my bed. The ones for Becca's Bookopoly. But there's a mixture of middle grade, let's see, like I said, travel non-fiction. Oh, love. Definitely contemporary. My uncle recently lent me, well, not recently, a while ago, and I've had it for so long, Dodger by Terry Pratchett. I don't read any science fiction or fantasy really, and I thought this one might ease me in. He said it's more like a history of London really. So yeah, there's quite a mix on there. You might see it hopefully more in future, and yeah, maybe we can go through it and see what's on there. But anyway, enough for this video for now. Thanks, Mel, and let me know below if you would invite some of the people I've invited, or why you wouldn't invite those people. And yeah, maybe do a video of your 10. I'm not necessarily going to tag anybody, but if you want to give it a go, feel free. Consider yourself tagged. So see you next time. Bye.